All right, thanks, guys, for joining us on the TV side. We are now on KHOU 11 Plus, streaming live in our live voter phone bank, partnering with the League of Women Voters of Houston. We've been taking questions, or I should say, our volunteers have been taking questions for the last almost hour and a half. This goes until 7. I'm joined now by two wonderful ladies who sort of helped put this on together. You've actually been on the phones. So Claudia Ortega-Hogue, you are the president of the League of Women Voters in Houston, and Irene Nunez, we talked to you in the 4:30 hour. You are with the county clerk's office. So Claudia, I want to start with you. Let's start broad, big picture. Talk to me about the significance of what we're doing here and the impact this has on voters who clearly have questions.
Well, thank you so much for having us. I think this type of phone banks are very, very helpful for the community. Sometimes we just need some basic information, and sometimes it's a little bit intimidating in not knowing where to get the information. So, for example, like we have basic calls from callers like, what is the nearest polling location? What are the hours? Do I need to re-register to vote? And I think those are like basic questions. We're like, okay, if you're registered to vote and you have not changed counties, then you can still like vote early voting. So I think just having, real people answering the phones, las llamadas, llamándonos, I think that's really, really helpful.
And obviously, if you've been watching us on the TV side, we've been doing this in English y en español. ¿Qué tan importante es hacerlo en español también para la comunidad latina, que sabemos que aquí en Houston, en Harris County, hay tantos latinos?
Mira, el poder hacer este banco de llamadas en español es algo muy importante para nuestra comunidad latina, porque entonces le da la confianza a la gente que nos puedan llamar, ya sea en español, ya sea en inglés, ya sea en Spanglish, pero lo importante es, ¿verdad?, es que nos llamen y que sientan que pueden llamar, y la verdad lo que estamos haciendo, estamos colaborando con el Departamento de Elecciones aquí con Irene y con otras organizaciones no lucrativas, que el punto es dar la información sin ningún partido, ¿verdad? Lo que queremos es que la gente salga, que haga un voto informado, educado y que se sienta seguro y que tenga las herramientas para ir a votar.
So Irene, you've actually been manning the phones for us. You've taken lots of calls. Tell me a little bit about what you're hearing from voters. What are the top questions that you've heard, or any unique questions you may have heard?
So one of the questions that we've gotten is, where is my nearest vote center and what are the hours? So for the first week of early voting, our hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sunday, noon to 7, and then that second week of early voting, we actually have extended hours for those folks that work a little late. So the first 3 days, that Monday through Wednesday, it's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Halloween, that Thursday the 31st, we're 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then on the last day of early voting, we will be 7 to 7. So that's one of those questions that we're getting, like, can I get to there? I leave work late. Yes, you can.
We've also been talking, I think in the 4:30 half hour, you talked a lot about questions about the disabled community, questions about how to vote if you're disabled. Walk our viewers about that, what you've been hearing.
Yeah, so if a voter decides that they would like to vote and they don't want to vote by mail, they're disabled, they qualify to vote by mail, but they're able to go to a vote center, but maybe not physically go inside the vote center, we have what's called curbside voting. So they would be driven up, or they would drive up to a blue buzzer that we have out there, they press that, and our election workers will go out and qualify the voter, right? It's very important. Another call is, what do I need to bring to the polls? One of those 7 acceptable forms of ID that has the photo. So the best one would be your Texas driver's license, a Texas ID, a passport, right? So, yeah.
Claudia, háblenos un poquito de lo que tiene que traer la gente, qué son las opciones que tienen si quieren votar en cuestión de documentos.
Claro, pueden traer su licencia, ¿verdad?, de manejo, una licencia del estado, una licencia de armas, su pasaporte, su certificado de naturalización. Lo que pueden hacer es llamarnos, porque existen otros documentos, pero los más comunes son esos que acaba de comentar. Así que yo digo que, su licencia, si no la tiene, una identificación de estado, un certificado de naturalización, su pasaporte, una identificación de armas, y tenemos más documentos que se pueden presentar.
I know you haven't been manning the phones today, but what types of questions, I'm curious, has the League of Women Voters of Houston been getting ahead of time before the start of early voting? I'm assuming you guys have been getting questions and interest with people who want to make sure their vote counts.
Yes, so for example, with the League of Women Voters of Houston, right, we have the Voters Guide, and I think that's one of the documents that callers will ask us, like, I need to learn about the candidates, who do I need to be voting? We're like strictly non nonpartisan, right? What we are doing is really providing civic education documents, materials, so then for people to be able to do like informed voting. So, for example, that's one of the number one questions. So now, for example, we have a printed copy, we have an audio, or an ebook. We have different ways, and I think at this point, the voters want to know like who do they need to be voting for? And I think what we always tell them is like, you know what, go to our website, get the information, get a guide, and just learn about the candidates, and then learn what, and then choose whatever works for you according to your own personal issues and family and however that affects you and your community.
Sure. And I've been chatting with several voters as we've been doing the phone bank, and another popular question that I think a lot of people have gotten is maybe parents calling about their children that may be in school out of state, or that maybe people that just recently moved to Houston that want to make sure they're able to vote here. Talk to me some about that and what sort of questions related to that you're getting.
Yeah, so we've gotten some of those questions of, well, my son, my daughter, they're in school, they're out of state, but they're registered to vote here in Harris County. So in any other Texas county, if they're out of the state, they are eligible to vote by mail. So they qualify under being out of the county, right? In this instance, even if it's Montgomery, Galveston, it doesn't matter what county. If they're outside of the county during the early voting period as well as election day, they have until October 25th to apply to vote by mail. So the office that, for instance, for us, the Harris County Clerk's office, we have to physically receive the application to vote by mail by October 25th. That's the deadline across the board for all Texas counties. So that's what we recommend. So get it done.
Did you want to add something?
No, I was just going to add en español. Esa es una razón que la verdad nos unimos a los esfuerzos, ¿verdad?, del Departamento de Elecciones con Irene, porque realmente ellos tienen la información indicada y adecuada para todos los votantes. Así que eso es para nosotros algo muy importante y sin precedente, que estamos uniéndonos a los esfuerzos de KHOU 11, el Departamento de Elecciones, la Liga de Mujeres Votantes y otras organizaciones donde podemos llevar este tipo de información y que sea información, ¿verdad?, correcta y informada.
In the last presidential election in 2020, obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? Vote by mail was a huge part of how we voted. Drive-through voting, a lot of different types of voting back in that election. Durante la última elección presidencial en el año 2020, lógicamente era una pandemia, se votó de una cierta manera por correo. Mi pregunta en español es, el pueblo latino vota más por correo, tiene preguntas sobre cómo votar por correo, o es una población que a lo mejor vota más en persona? ¿Hay tendencias?
Voy a seguir el seguimiento del Departamento de Elecciones, pero sí, por ejemplo, con nosotros, he trabajado anteriormente con otras organizaciones latinas e hispanas. Obviamente ahorita estoy con la Liga de Mujeres Votantes de Houston, y sí hemos visto, por ejemplo, la parte educativa, de educación, de informarles de qué es una boleta para votar por correo. Es muy importante. Mucha de nuestra comunidad no sabe que esos son los esfuerzos o qué es eso. Entonces tenemos que explicarle, y por ejemplo estamos muy agradecidos con el Departamento de Elecciones porque hablan en español, hablan en inglés, en otros idiomas, y el poder encaminar a la gente para explicarles el proceso. Así que en la comunidad latina es algo que ya existe, que ya existía, pero puede ser algo nuevo porque es la parte que estamos educando de parte de la Liga de Mujeres Votantes y del condado, del Departamento de Elecciones, para informarlos. Así que obviamente ahora, ¿verdad?, existen muchos recursos en donde no existe la excusa de no votar porque tenemos la boleta por correo, para votar por adelantado, anticipada o el día de la elección. Así que este tipo de foros o eventos es muy importante para nuestra comunidad.
And Irene, are you getting lots, and you can address that in Spanish if you want to elaborate, but in English, are you getting lots of questions? Are the volunteers getting questions about vote by mail, since it's a little different this time that we're not in a pandemic?
Yeah, so the vote by mail from 2020 to now hasn't really changed in the fact that there are always deadlines, right? The clerk's office, we abide by the Texas Election Code and those parameters laid out by the election code, right? So it's always a limit. That's why we always say, so they have until October 25th to fill out that information, send us that form, and for us to physically have that. In 2020, right, we're talking about who all came out to vote. So more than 76% of voters in 2020 chose to vote in person. So they voted early and in person. So that's a tendency that we do see. With the Latino community, right, like Claudia mentioned, we are educating. It's always educating. We also offer it English, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Chinese.
All right.
So yeah.
And I did pull out my phone because I was ignoring you. There's actually
you're fine.
there's actually some questions that we've been getting from viewers through different platforms. So I wanted to pull those up on my phone and see if we have answers for those people who maybe haven't called in. So one of the questions is, a viewer wrote us, I have a daughter in college in a different county. How would she be able to vote in this election if she's unable to make it back to Harris County? You touched on that earlier.
Yes. So she would have to go. So she's in a different county right now for school, right? Let's say originally she is from Harris County. So she would go online. She can go to harrisvotes.com, download the vote by mail application. She will fill that out and mail it to us. And so that has to make it to the clerk's office by October 25th so that then we can process her application, put all of the ballot packet together, and mail it to her.
Okay, another question. A viewer requested their mail-in ballot, and online it says it was sent out. That was on September 26th, but she has not received it yet. Should she be concerned? What does she do?
Yeah. So we do have that mail track, which I'm like really grateful that they actually use that. We do have the mail tracker online. If for some reason she feels that she won't get her mail ballot in time, because the clerk's office, we do not handle the postal service. So we do offer that mail tracker where it shows we received it, we've sent it out. But if she hasn't received it, we are at the beginning of early voting. So if she really feels like she's not going to get it, she can always come in person to a vote center and cast a ballot in person.
Okay, one more question for you, and then we'll turn to you, Claudia. My mail-in ballot was rejected. I called in, and they told me it has been fixed, but it still says rejected when I try to track my vote. Is there anything else I should do or need to do to correct that?
So I would recommend that this voter dial our hotline. So it's 713-755-6965. It is open every day of the week, the same hours of early voting, right? 7 to 7. On the weekend, it'll be noon to 7. So I recommend they call and they try to get that fixed.
Okay. Claudia, tell us a little bit about, obviously this is one voter phone bank, 3 hours, but I'm assuming the questions will continue long after this phone bank ends. What will the League of Women Voters be doing through early voting until Election Day? What resources are there for folks who may have questions that maybe don't get a chance to call in and get an answer today?
So what we're trying to do, right, I mean, they can go to our website, right, lwbhouston.org or houstonvotersguide.org. I think what we're trying to do is basically like making sure that voters have the actual guide or have a sample ballot or have the information to go right, like to vote. Usually, I think most people don't know that they can like bring a written document or print the ballot or print the guide. Sometimes they think they have to bring the phone. So we're going to be answering a lot of those basic questions. We're actually going to be participating in a lot of events like Run to Vote and doing certain things that the community can feel like they can feel that we're voting in a community, they're going to be safe. And also more than anything that there's they have rights at the polls, right? Like if they're going to be online and they're in line and the polls close, right? I mean, they're going to be taken care of all the way till they exercise that. So I think that's going to be with us collaborating. If we hear a call on the ground, we're going to be calling Irene, like, hey, we heard that something's happening on the polling location. So I think we're coordinating with like the department, with the elections department, with other nonprofits, and we're going to continue to educate, and making sure that people can call us, feel safe, and that we are acting as a nonpartisan nonprofit. And what we want to make sure is that they feel safe at the polls.
It's always exciting when early voting finally gets underway, right? So, and you've been actually taking calls. So I'm curious, what are you gauging from voters? Is there a nervous energy? Are they excited to get out there? Are they apprehensive? Describe sort of the mood of the caller.
I definitely think that they're excited, right? So they want that information. They're asking, it's like, what's my closest center? We've gotten calls from all over different counties, not just Harris. And so I've also gotten to be on there, like providing that information. So voters are ready, and we're here to provide that info for them.
Okay. And Claudia, before we wrap in Spanish, again, give folks, dale a la gente una idea de lo que va a estar haciendo the League of Women Voters of Houston durante estas 2 semanas antes de las elecciones.
Mira, lo que vamos a estar haciendo haciendo con la Liga de Votantes de Houston, vamos a estar dando la información, la guía de votantes. Pueden ir a la página de la Liga, que es lwvhouston.org, houstonvoterguides.org. Y I think con eso lo que queremos es que la comunidad se sienta que tenga las herramientas. Nos pueden llamar si quieren imprimir, por ejemplo, la boleta, una muestra en donde les podemos informar. Sabes que puedes llevar documentos a las casillas, puedes como hacer tu tarea antes de ir a la casilla y saber por quién vas a votar. La guía te da es una guía informativa que puedes aprender de todos los candidatos, de sus plataformas. Entonces a veces cuando llegas a las urnas tienes las cosas técnicas que tienes que presentar tu ID, ¿verdad? Hacer seguir las instrucciones del condado, pero también hay cosas que tú puedes hacer. Por ejemplo, si quieres traer a alguien que te pueda ayudar en español, ¿verdad? Necesitas ayuda. A veces no sabemos con quién o que se te traba algo, puedes pedir ayuda a algún trabajador de las elecciones. Entonces, nuestro trabajo realmente es que la comunidad se sienta que tiene las herramientas, los recursos, que se sienta seguro. Nos pueden llamar y con eso y como lo que comentaba anteriormente, estar coordinando. Si hay algo que pasa o se cierran las urnas, algo que no está bien, mi trabajo es hablar con Irene y decirle, ¿sabes qué? Escuchamos que algo está pasando, y ella obviamente coordina con su equipo. Es decir, así lo que estamos haciendo es coordinar de una manera colaborativa, y por eso estamos muy agradecidas al Departamento de Elecciones de que están trabajando con organizaciones como la Liga para poder llevar esta información y que la gente se sienta protegida y que sepan sus derechos al momento de ejercer su voto.
I'd asked Irene what some of the callers have felt, how they're feeling the energy ahead of voting. Entonces le quería preguntar en español cómo se siente. Yo sé que no ha recibido llamadas usted hoy, pero ¿qué escucha usted de la comunidad latina? ¿Cómo se sienten? ¿Nerviosos, ansiosos, con ganas de votar? ¿Cómo se siente el pueblo latino?
Lo que estamos viendo, ¿verdad?, es de que la comunidad latina realmente se está informando y está haciendo preguntas. Están tratando de saber cuáles son los recursos. Por ejemplo, esta es la primera vez que estamos imprimiendo muchas guías también en español, diferentes idiomas, pero sí vemos el entusiasmo de querer participar y saber de dónde poder obtener la información. Existen muchos jóvenes que quieren votar por la primera vez. Se lo hablo porque tengo a mi hijo que tiene 18. Entonces, por ejemplo, ¿a dónde voy? ¿Con quién hablo? Pero existe ese entusiasmo de hacer historia y participar, porque como comentabas anteriormente, esas elecciones, ¿verdad?, son muy diferentes al 2020, otras 2016, o sea, diferente. La dinámica ahora es histórica y mucha gente quiere hacer historia, y también hemos visto que mucha gente se está haciendo o se hizo ciudadano estadounidense para poder salir estas elecciones, registrarse para votar a tiempo y salir a votar. Entonces, obviamente hablo de una persona que es latina, que he visto el entusiasmo, y entonces estamos muy contentos por los resultados o las ganas de querer participar.
And we did a Latino voter roundtable not too long ago. It's also streaming on KHOU 11 Plus, and you saw that enthusiasm among Latino voters and really all voters in general. But also, to your point, just the diversity of the Latino vote is not monolithic, and I think that's pretty unique and interesting. So there's a plug for our roundtable from earlier today. So lots of questions coming in. Again, this phone bank will continue until 7 p.m. We're back on TV, on the TV side, that's about 12 minutes away at 6 o'clock. But I do want to give you those numbers for those following and streaming along. If you have a question, the English phone line is 713-654-1111. And if you have a question in Spanish, si tiene alguna pregunta en español, el número es 713-284-8811. These fine people behind me are taking calls. They'll continue to take them until 7 o'clock. So give them a call, and we'll see you on TV in just a little bit. All right, thank you for those of you that are now joining us on the KHOU 11 streaming app. You've been watching our live voter phone bank in partnership with the League of Women Voters. The county clerk's office participating as well. They are still taking your questions. We have about 30 minutes more to go, and it really picked up after the 6 o'clock live shot, guys. Both of you were on the phone at the time, and you guys are just picking up one call after another. They're still on the phones now. So we talked to you right when this all started, Katie, right at 4 o'clock. So give us a sense of when you actually sat down, took calls, what you're hearing from voters.
Sure. So people are really excited about being able to vote, but they are also having just questions about where their closest polling location is. So it's really helping people navigate the different websites. So, we have Harris County has a really great website, but we also are helping viewers from all counties across the area. So I just talked to a caller from Montgomery County and was finding his nearest polling location and making sure that he was able to vote anywhere he wanted, which is allowed for early voting for Montgomery County, and was able to find one just right down the road from his house. But the websites, can be a little tricky sometimes. So we were able to just help him get to the information that he needed and help people in that way.
So Irene, have you guys been getting, have you received any more complicated calls that took a little, I think the last one you were on seemed like you were on the phone for a little bit. What was that one about? Or can you give us a sense of some more complicated calls?
Yeah, so some voters might have changed their address, and so they're having issues with like, hey, I have an expired driver's license, right? And so something to know is that your driver's license can be expired. If you're under the age of 65, it can be expired up to 4 years. So even though that driver's license is expired, it's still connected to that voter registration, and they'll be totally fine. They will accept them.
Are there certain topics that you guys have heard more about? We've heard about mail-in ballots. We've heard about address locations. Any other thing, any other top issue or problem folks are concerned about in terms of where to cast their ballots or how to cast their ballot?
One other question I had was really how to know about who's on the ballot. And so I was just talking to a woman about all the different judges that are on the ballot. And so finding resources to understand, what their positions are and, where they're what they believe in and how they want to run for office and how to be a good candidate and to be elected. And so they were asking for really great resources. And so, of course, the League of Women Voters does a nonpartisan voters guide. So being able to direct them to vote411.org or our local HoustonVotersGuide.org was really helpful for them too.
We talked after the 5 o'clock show about how voters are feeling, the sense you get from their calls. For those of us joining now after the 6 o'clock show, tell us about the sense that what you're hearing from voters in terms of how they're feeling heading into the actual voting process.
Yeah, so it really seems like voters are excited. They want to get that information. They need those materials, right? And so that's why we're here, being able to provide them with that assistance that they need in order to be able to access the voting process. It's something that I know that the League does, that other organizations do. At the clerk's office, that's what we're there for. And so some of those questions that are coming in might be a little tough for us, that we don't have the general information, that top knowledge, and so we're being able to pass them on to our election hotline. That's 713-755-6965. Once we close out here, they can always call there.
All right, let's do a couple questions in Spanish. Just joking. Just joking.
It's Irene joking.
Just joking. Irene, cuéntame un poco sobre el pueblo latino en particular, las llamadas que has recibido. ¿Cómo se sienten al empezar la votación? ¿Están ansiosos, nerviosos, excited?
Yeah. Pues siempre hay un poquito de nerviosismo, ¿verdad? Con el proceso electoral, porque es algo tan importante. Pero si están listos para votar, las preguntas más frecuentes es, ¿qué es lo que necesito para salir a votar, verdad? Una de esas credenciales con su fotografía. ¿Cuál es el sitio electoral más cercano a mí? ¿Puedo votar en cualquiera de esos sitios? Y les estamos acordando que durante la votación anticipada pueden acudir a cualquier sitio electoral que esté abierto. Es parte del código electoral. Entonces, están listos para votar y necesitan esa información.
Obviously, we have about 26 minutes left of the actual live voter phone bank with KHOU and the League of Women Voters of Houston. But walk folks that are joining us now about what the League of Women Voters of Houston will be doing after this phone bank ends. I mean, you guys will continue to answer questions, right?
Oh, absolutely. So we'll be at a handful of events all leading up to Election Day, but on Saturday we actually have an event called Run to Vote, which is going to be at Moody Park, and you can do a 5K, you can run, walk, or cut through and not do the whole 5K if you want, and then actually go vote at the Moody's Community Center next door. And so we're encouraging people to come out and participate, and then go ahead and early vote as well. And then we'll be at lots of different locations, throughout the county. So you can always look at our website to see where we're at. You can also call us, have any questions. Our voters guide is available in all public libraries, both Harris County and in the Houston Public Library. And then we have all of our information online as well in audio, digital, translated, ebook, any kind of different way you want to take your information in, we've got it for you.
¿Puede traducir eso en español?
Sí, la Liga de Mujeres Votantes tendrá un evento que es una caminata en el Moody Park, donde después de esa caminata van a tener la posibilidad de ir a acudir a la urna que está más cercana y votar. También tienen otros eventos, tienen información en Vote 411, donde pueden acudir, agarrar el guía de las mujeres votantes que tiene toda la información de aquellos candidatos y propuestas que están en la boleta.
And you can see behind us the calls keep coming in. They keep picking up the phones. For those of you watching on the KHOU 11 Plus app, streaming online right now, the English phone line again, if you happen to have a question, is 713-654-1111. Obviously, we're also taking questions. There you go. They just heard me. For those who want to ask questions in Spanish, para los que tengan preguntas en español, el número 713-284-8811, 713-284-8811. Katie, if you could just talk about the significance and the importance of what we're seeing here and being able to, for folks to ask their questions and really, most importantly, to get answers to these questions.
Yeah, it is so important because people get nervous about voting sometimes. They want to make sure they're following the rules. They want to make sure that they understand what's on their ballot, and people want to have their voices heard. But sometimes it could be a little nerve-wracking. You know, if you haven't voted in a long time, especially if you haven't voted in the last handful of elections, this will be the first time you vote on our brand new election machines and our voting machines. And so this might be the first time you're using a paper ballot. And so there's just a little bit of just giving yourself some grace, some time, some patience, but to really, allow yourself this great privilege that we have in the country to be able to vote and make sure that your voices are heard and that your questions are answered so that you do feel confident going in. But there's lots of resources, tons of people who want to help. That's what we're there for, tons of organizations who want to be a good resource for people and to really help them so that they can vote and then just feel confident and happy that they got it done and they can be excited. And because just having the courage to actually go and show up can be hard sometimes, we know that, but it is so important, and it'll make our community better, make us stronger, and make it so that we can vote in every election after this too.
Sure. So you also obviously represent the county clerk's office. First day of early voting wraps up at 7, right? The polls close at 7?
So polls close at 7, but it's very important to note if a voter is in line by 7, they are in their right to stay in line and they will be processed like any other voter. So stay in line if it's 7. Entonces, si lo puedo mencionar en español.
Claro.
Sí, las urnas cierran a las 7 de la noche, pero si está en la fila, quédense en fila porque será procesado como cualquier otro votante. Entonces, la urna no cerrará hasta que todos los votantes hayan votado.
And can you give us, I know you've been taking phone calls for the last almost 3 hours, but can you give us a sense of what you know of how day 1 of early voting went?
Yeah, so definitely the last time that I personally checked, we were over 95,000 votes had been cast in person. Now, that was around like about an hour or so ago, so I'm sure that the numbers are definitely up. So we're very excited.
Is that record-breaking at this point?
So at this point, from when I looked at it, no. So back in 2020, it was around 120,000 for the first day of early voting. So I would have to look at the number exactly right now to be able to tell you guys. But yeah, so 120, but we were at 95 a couple hours ago. So
we talked about this at 5:30. Mail-in ballots were a bigger deal, a bit bigger way to vote back in 2020. This time it's slightly different. Obviously, we're not in the middle of a pandemic, so the way you vote is slightly going to be different. You also have a lot of first-time voters. I'm curious, have any of you taken calls today from any people who have never voted before or are heading to the polls for the first time? And if you haven't taken those calls, you could address whether you've heard questions in general from people who will be casting their ballot for the first time.
Yeah, so one of the biggest questions is what IDs do I need? You know, do I need my voter registration card with me? And the answers are yes, bring your ID, and no, you don't need to have your voter registration card. But having your government issued photo ID is really important. It's okay if it doesn't necessarily match your voter registration card, as long as you can, verify your address of where you are, your residency is, and so that way you can vote in that location. But a lot of first-time voters, that's the first thing. They want to make sure that they have the documents that they have, and then also understanding where their closest polling location is, what kind of information's on their ballot. We always recommend that people print out their specific sample ballot, which is like a ballot worksheet, and then you can use that as a cheat sheet. And so you can bring that in with you at the polling locations, because you can't have your phone out while you're at the polling locations. So that can be really startling for people who just, like myself, live on my phone. Yeah. So to not be able to have it out is a little weird. And so you have to have physical paper. And so printing that ahead of time, whether it's at your office, at home, or anything else you need, then print that out and make your notes, and then you'll be prepared.
That voter registration card tip is super important. I mean, I've been voting for years, and I always panic. I always panic because you think that you need that voter registration card, and it's important information to know you don't. Could you translate some of what she said in Spanish?
Yeah. So, una de las preguntas más frecuentes que hemos recibido de los votantes que primerizos es ¿qué necesito para votar y a dónde puedo acudir para votar, verdad? Primeramente siempre les decimos esa credencial con su fotografía, sea su licencia de conducir de Texas o el ID. Algo importante es que también preguntan, ¿necesito tener la credencial del registro de votante? Y las respuestas son, primeramente, lleve su ID, y no necesita tener esa credencial que diga que está registrado. Con que sea que usted cuando se presente dé su credencial y les diga, esa es mi dirección y esta es mi credencial, con eso es suficiente.
The earlier question I'd asked you guys was about mail-in ballots. I know you've taken some questions about mail-in ballots. And what are some of the issues folks are concerned about in that?
So some of the issues, although it's still early, right, and folks are like, is this going to make it in time? Am I going to be able to say? People are nervous, right? They're really excited. So answers, right? If you have received your vote by mail, right, the application, you filled it out, you sent it, you received your mail ballot, and you don't think that it's going to be delivered in time, you can go and surrender that in person at any one of the sites and say, I would like to vote in person. If you have not received your mail ballot and you requested one, you can go to a vote center and say, I have not received my ballot by mail, and you would fill out the form saying that the notice, it hadn't been delivered, and you will vote a regular ballot on the machine. So those are the big questions, right? I was like, you don't have to wait until the last minute. You can go and do that process in person if you'd like.
Okay, is there anything I haven't asked you guys that you think is important? Any last takeaways for folks watching us?
Sure, I have a couple little tips. Okay, so one tip is to make sure you do not wear anything with candidate information on in the polling location. So even though you may love them, don't bring them into the polling locations, because you can't have any candidate information when you vote. And then another thing is, again, to bring your paper ballot, to make sure you have that. Vote early, especially this week where the weather's supposed to be nice. You never know if it's going to rain all week long next week or on election day.
Well, we don't have a lot of rain in the forecast for the next guy, so weather will cooperate. But get out there and vote.
Get out this week just in case. And then just make sure that you share your experience with your friends and your family. Don't be excited to share information. Be excited to share that you're voting, and make sure you take that picture well outside the voting location, because you can't take a selfie inside in the polling booth. You have to wait till you get back to your car.
Sure. Any takeaways?
So one big thing, we've gotten a lot of calls. Can I take my child with me? Right? We have a lot of parents. Yes, you can. You can take your child with you.
You may not want to.
You may not want to, right? But go ahead, take them with you. It's a great experience. I started doing it when I was 8, so my mom's been taking me to the polls with her for a very long time, and we still do it as a family.
Yeah.
Even when they're older too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even I had somebody call who their son was 14, who wasn't quite eligible to vote, but will be able to vote at the next presidential. And she's like, I wanted to bring him. And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah. He doesn't have to be a toddler. He's 14. That's fine.
Yeah. I have a 2.5-year-old toddler, but I don't think she didn't. Yeah. I don't think it would work out too well. But it's nice to know that you totally can. That should not be a reason to not go out and vote.
Exactly. And then if you need assistance, please ask for it. Please ask for it. We have assistance in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Chinese, and they can bring someone with them. If they would not like the assistance there and they have someone that can provide that assistance, even if I've been voting with my mom since I was 8, and I provided her like the translation services. So yeah.
Okay. We really appreciate both of you guys. The calls are still coming in, so we'll let you get back to that. Once again, the numbers for those watching us on the KHOU 11 Plus streaming app: 713-654-1111. I should know this by now, but I keep referring down to it. 713-654-1111. Those are for questions in English. We are also taking questions in Spanish. También estamos recibiendo preguntas en español, y el número en español es 713-284-8811. You have about 15 minutes left. Tienen como 15 minutos más hasta que se acabe este live voter phone bank, until this live voter phone bank wraps up. Keep watching us on the KHOU 11 streaming app. We'll continue that stream up until 7 o'clock. Thanks for watching.